Back slide. Yeah. So here is a slide that shows the minimum requirement for humans. All the amino acids, I mean, you need to hit at least that levels of each amino acid to be trouble-free. Now, when we consume for 75 grams of protein from plant foods, let's say 50% from cereals and 50% from legumes like beans and dal. And cereals, all millets, rice, wheat, all these things. Next slide. Yeah, so here, if you're consuming 75 grams of protein a day, I mean 50% from cereals and 50% from lentils, you are hitting all amino acids and you are in surplus. So there won't be any issue of not having enough protein. So when do we see actual problem? Yeah, so here, if you lower your daily protein intake to 45 grams, which is the orange, the middle line, you see some amino acids like lysine and methionine, you're coming close to the borderline, the minimum requirement. So that means if you go anything below 45 grams of protein per day, you would get into trouble. But if you are staying above this, there won't be any problem. You are getting all the protein that you need, all the amino acids. Now let's see in the next slide. So the diet that I planned was 50% protein from cereals and 50% protein from lentils. Now we'll reduce it to 25% and 25%. And for the remaining 50%, let's add meat to that particular diet and see how the amino acid profile looks. So the purple line that you're seeing is the combined along with 50% protein from meat. And the orange line is exclusively plant-based. So how many of you see massive difference here? If you look at it, both are well above the baseline. So you are not going deficient in either. So now what is the problem? So when it comes to protein, there are a few things that we need to understand. First one is the limiting amino acids. So when you are having surplus, the limiting amino acids is not an issue. Then comes the protein quantity and protein quality. So when you look at the protein digestibility, normally people say, I mean, this is scientific, not what people say, but animal proteins have better digestibility because those are very identical to human flesh. So it has 85 to 90% digestibility, and plant proteins have 75 to 80% digestibility. So that's not a massive difference. That's hardly 6 to 9 grams of additional protein on top of whatever you are taking. So by doing that, you don't have to rely on meat for protein intake. But again, the digestibility, you know how the digestibility is calculated? So they feed raw food to animals and they check the digestibility. But what happens when you cook them? See, plants have anti-nutrients called fiber, lowers the protein digestibility. Then there are trypsin inhibitors, there are lectins in it. So these compounds, when you cook them, fiber is softened, you lose a lot of lectins, you lose almost all of trypsin inhibitors, and the digestibility goes up. I mean, for cereals, if you see raw is 70 to 75% digestibility. If you cook them, it goes to 80 to 88%. So even digestibility is not an issue. So there are some methods that scientifically we measure the quality of protein. So for example, biological value. How many of you heard biological value? At least something called BV that, tells you the quality of protein. That's something, scientists came up in 1911 to, measure the quality of protein. I mean, we won't have enough time to do that. So basically they check the nitrogen percentage. So all amino acids have nitrogen. So what you take will be excreted through urine and feces. They calculate both. They see how much of protein you absorb. So they say, they calculate like that which foods has best biological value. But that is not looking at a particular food. The quality of food, biological value cannot give. It only gives how much is absorbed in the body. So next came the DIAS scoring, I think around 2013. So this calculates the amount of protein you eat and the amount of protein that you excrete. So whatever the remaining, that means you have absorbed it. But it doesn't take into consideration that some protein amino acids are not digested well in the colon, the large intestine, but still that is lowering the excrement. So again, it gives us a very high numbers. So they came up with something else now. So DIAS came in 1989. So in 2013, they came up with something called PDCAS. So these scoring systems are not designed for urban, populations. These are designed basically to check protein quality, to design food for kids who are starving in Africa, or maybe 130 countries. The FAO and WHO, they developed these methods to identify which protein has the highest quality for people who are suffering from severe protein deficiency, like kwashiorkor, in African countries or any, more than 130 countries where, the minimum protein requirement is not met. So for urban populations where we have surplus of food, where we can consume, lot of people are carrying extra weight. That means you have surplus of calories and you can eat more protein. So that's what I said. If you are eating more than 45, 50 grams of protein, you are hitting all the amino acids. If you're eating 0.8 grams of protein per kilo of body weight, which is the RDA, for sure you are not going deficient. And then people who say, I heard people talk about biological value or taking PDCAS or DIAS score, saying, animal protein is better than plant protein. I agree with them, but that doesn't apply for everybody. It only applies to people who have to eat only this much and get all the protein from it. So that doesn't apply to, the urban people. Here is the list of foods that I made. So by just consuming these foods. So it's not rocket science. So that's what, while making this, I was just realizing that going plant-based and eating a healthy diet and staying fit, getting enough protein is not rocket science. You just have to eat the right foods. You don't have to depend on, so that's why I wanted to see how many people here consumed meat, eggs and dairy, because if you're giving those up, you shouldn't have a doubt in your mind that, you won't. So I'll be sharing the PPT with the organizers. Anybody interested can, get a copy of that, look at the levels. If you want to, recheck scientifically, you can do that as well. So I have a YouTube channel called Nutritional Perspective. I make small videos on different conditions. So you can contact me. My contact number and my email will be with the organizers. Anybody who wants to consult me, you can do that directly. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to say so.
Not harming to anyone.
Kindness to me means organizing potluck.
Kindness is being kind to a fellow human being and also being kind to all the living beings.
So kindness and ఏం లేదండి.
Thank you for the insightful session, sir. Now I would request Ramya to hand over the mementos to Mr. Trilokram and Mr. Abhishek. Mr. Abhishek, can we have you on stage, please? Let's welcome our vegan beast. Thank you, sir. To to everybody who had missed Sir's session, Abhishek Sir's session, let me tell you that this man proved to the world that bodybuilding does not require exploiting other species. He defied all the stereotypes and showed that plant-powered strength is the real strength. And yesterday he got our muscle powers tested, and his abs did all the talking yesterday, and he also did some real talk. Thank you so much for coming to the festival all the way from Mumbai. Thank you so much, sir. Avishkar, over to you.
ఏ ప్రాణికి ఎటువంటి హాని చేయకుండా వీలైనంత వరకు హెల్ప్ చేయటం.
This festival is for all the vegans and the non-vegans. It has more than 32